Welcome to another episode. We're here today to talk about what we call the devil's cancer. The book is just coming out now in early October, and one of the chapters is entitled The Devil's Cancer. And when you hear Diana tell her story, you'll get a pretty good idea of why this is a very accurate label. So Diana, you were in the chapter on the devil's cancer, and your case is absolutely classic. Why don't you just tell us about your case? Yeah.
Okay, so I had a mammogram done 6 months before my diagnosis.
And that was, by the way, 10 years ago.
And that was 10 years. I am a 10-year breast cancer survivor as of July 14th this year. I'm so excited. So, but as, let's see, so January I had my mammogram, and it showed no unusual findings. And then the following month, I saw my physician for a clinical exam. And other than the typical fibrocystic things going on, nothing unusual, nothing there. And I was really consistent about doing my breast exams, and I always chose the last week of the month to do that. So the end of June, I had done my self-exam. Everything looked fine. However, the following week, I got out of the shower, and when drying myself off, I could see that my right breast was misshapen. It was swollen, the areola looked a little flattened, and I knew the day before I had had a lot of caffeine, which when you're fibrocystic you shouldn't have, causes swelling. So to myself I thought, okay, we'll drink lots of water today, we won't panic. But then that evening hadn't changed, and the next morning I called my physician, made an appointment, got in a couple days later because it was over the weekend, and when I saw her, she didn't notice a mass. There was nothing, but she did notice the change in the shape of the breast as well and referred me to you. And so about 3 days later, I saw you for an exam. You went over all my mammograms from several years, saw nothing. And of obviously looking at the breast, you noticed there was a change, so you did an ultrasound. And based on that ultrasound, you were able to notice that there were changes in the breast, what you called distortion in the picture, which you said is indicative of a type of cancer that often doesn't show on mammograms and is tough to diagnose. So the next day, we did a core biopsy, and then that was on a Friday. And then the following Tuesday, you gave me a call and gave me the news that it was positive for lobular breast cancer. And it was just very shocking. Although I can say, on that Friday morning after, the shower and everything, and when I looked at it, I, in my gut, knew something was wrong. And when I saw you, as the weekend progressed, I could still see changes happening in that breast. Gosh, So I in my gut, I knew something was happening, and it was happening fairly quick. In fact, it was from the time you and we did our consultations, the MRI, I met with the plastic surgeon because I was going to do immediate breast reconstruction. So in the time in doing all that and coordinating the treatment and the surgery date, it was about 3 weeks difference. And I remember going in to see you for the pre-surgery checkup, and you looked at the breast, and at that point the nipple had retracted. And you looked at it and you said, we got to get this thing off. So after surgery, we got the pathology report back, and that showed that there was a almost 5 centimeter, 4.9 centimeter mass, another 1 centimeter mass growing off of it, and 11 positive lymph nodes. So it was big, and I was shocked. And at that point, I knew I was for the battle of my life.
Yeah. Well, you were, thank God, you've won the battle of 10 years. We kind of think of it as a statistical cure. There's no guarantee in this business, but your prognosis is so good that we would expect you to have about the same life expectancy as somebody who hadn't had cancer. The big question comes up in the confusion here. Here you've done everything right. Had the mammogram, you saw your doctor regularly, you did self-exam, you had the clinical exam. What more could you have done? And at that point in time, there wasn't a lot more to do. Now we know that the big problem is breast density. You had the dense breasts, and breast cancer show up at white spots. And a white spot in a breast that's dense is a white breast, so you have a white spot in the mammogram, it just blends in. It's like trying to find a snowman in the snowstorm. The other thing about it, rather than growing as a mass like the invasive cancers do, the invasive ductals, the lobulars kind of go out more like a spider web. And over time, the web thickens and thickens. It seems like it reaches a point where it coalesces, and it seems like a mass shows up almost overnight. And so it certainly can't show up overnight. It's not growing that fast, but it's this pattern of growth that makes it so difficult. So one of the positive things now is women with dense breasts, average risk women, we're doing yearly ultrasound screening. And so we're now picking up small lobular cancers that we were missing before. And so had that technology been available for you, and we recommended the ultrasound, we probably could have found it a year or two earlier, and you might have, a lumpectomy saved your breast. For higher risk women, we use the MRI screening, or we alternate MRI with ultrasound, but women who have gene positive, et cetera. But you didn't have any risks at all, did you?
No risk. The only one in my family with breast cancer.
Yeah. So the fact that it doesn't run in your family doesn't tell you very much, does
Right.
it? These can come. In fact, in most cases, we don't have a family history. But when we do have a family history, that's an indication that we should do risk assessment and then evaluate when to start screening, how often, and when to add more aggressive screening like the MRI. Now, did you go through? You went through the chemotherapy.
I did 8 rounds of chemo every 2 weeks, and then 30 sessions of radiation treatment.
Right. So you have to be aggressive when we have, but look at it, it really worked. With 11 positive lymph nodes, you got to pray a lot. So what got you to
Which
here?
is
You
what
were
I did.
a single mom, 2 young children, dependent upon you for getting them through life.
Yeah.
You had a great responsibility. How did you deal with that?
It was tough. And what was interesting, well, not interesting, but 6 years prior, my husband passed away suddenly. So I knew that I had to beat this. And I remember after the diagnosis and everything, and I went home and I sat the boys down, because we always did weekly family meetings, and they're like, Mom, it's not time, it's early. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but we have to talk about something. So I let them know, and I just told them, this is a family fight, and I'm not giving up. And at that point, we didn't know, what stage or anything. But they knew what they were going to have to do. My oldest was a senior, and what was very interesting is he told me later, after all the treatment and stuff, he told me that he and his brother had a discussion with my brother that if Mom died, that he wanted to take care of the younger brother so he could stay here, finish school, and they had the whole plan all set up, which was very, to me, that really hit home. That was really devastating, as to, sometimes when we're in this battle and we tend to think of ourselves, and, we do think of our families, but just the impact it has on especially the kids.
Oh my gosh. And
the spouses.
In a way, you probably were proud and relieved that they've taken it upon themselves. They're obviously very mature and made right decisions.
Right.
And yet it kind of leaving you feel a little bit empty. That,
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
The worst case scenario is setting in. If it's being discussed, I can't hide it.
Exactly. And I just remember after our appointment that one day, coming home and just praying and saying, you know what, Lord, give me 5 years. Just give me 5 years so I can get the boys out of school, started in their life, and after that, we'll do whatever we need to do. And so we got 10 plus.
So, one day at a time.
One day
That's
at
a great
time.
feeling. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, and that's what it is. You just have to take it one day at a time. You know you're in a battle, but you have to find the positives. And if you, if you deal with your grief, you do what you need to do to get through it, but you can't stay there. I always tell people when I talk to them, and I do some volunteering with women.
Do a lot of volunteering.
Do a lot
I
of
want to hear more about
volunteering.
that.
And when I do, I sit down and I tell them, go through your stages, your anger, your frustration, your fear, all of that, and that's going to continue to happen, but don't stay there. You have to find the positives, because I do believe that being positive actually helps you get through it, and more positive energy is better than negative energy, health-wise, all the way around.
I don't think it could be said any better than that. There's a couple of really important points here. One is we're making incredible progress. So nowadays, it would be a complete failure on our part if a cancer came in 5 sonometers when it could have been diagnosed earlier using screening ultrasound or screening MRI for the high-risk patient. The other thing is I think you described the importance of hope in such a profound way. It got you through it, and you didn't have the opportunity to say, why me, and all these negative things. Immediately you became a fighter, because that's what a mother has to do. But it shows the power. I think a lot of the healing, I think your immune system benefits from that, and I think your story is so important. I hope other people read the book and read your story and learn more about it, because there's a lot of reason for hope. We're at a very important time. The sad part of this time is, you see my 40 not 50 button. The government is now has a committee saying women should start screening mammograms at age 50, do it every other year, and stop at 74. This could be a disaster. We cut breast cancer mortality in half for the 40 to 50 age group. This is a group that has more years of life to live than all the years of life lost for women 50 and over. Breast cancer, to a large extent, is a disease of young women. And we have so much we can do, but we have to fight it together. We have to make every effort to detect it at its early stage, treat it aggressively, and end up with a super result where somebody 10 years later can look back and say, I was cured.
Yes.